Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to another Mili reaction. Today we have Paper Bouquet as requested by Koi. I want to make sure that this is clear. I have seen The Executioner and Her Way of Life. I am, though, as I've mentioned a few times in other videos, a filthy intro-outro skipper. So I've never heard this song, and even if I have, it's been like 3 or 4 years since I've seen that show, so yeah, I'm sure I don't remember the intro or outro at all. So this is going to be definitely a reaction because even if I did watch it once, it was definitely once. But I'm also very positive I haven't heard this song because I don't remember watching the intro of that show ever. I just watched the show, and that's all I remember of it is vague points about the plot at this point. So I guess I'll go in knowing a little bit about the show, and that'll probably help my analysis portion, but I gotta listen to the song to find out. And I guess without further ado, let's go! Okay, I recognize this piano bit, so I probably skipped like right after this. Yep, and it's gone. Okay. So, just a few seconds from the overlap of me starting the show. A little bit more energetic than their usual stuff. Not too energetic though. Oh yeah. That's definitely anime intro coded. Probably the most anime intro thing I've heard them do. Okay, I'm hearing some references to the plot for sure. Really fun fill. That's a great break there. This is doing a good job at like sprinkling little things about the plot in it. It's being pretty vague about it, which is nice. Usually they're very obvious when they include plot points. Being a little bit more poetic about it. I kind of expect that out of Cassie, lyrically. I really love this drum part. It's very asymmetrical. Kind of messing with the syncopation. Little accent things like that in the hi-hat. Oh, man. God. That sounded a little bit too complex, honestly, for the drums. I wonder if they didn't have some help with that, unless secretly Cassie or Yamato are fantastic drummers or just know exactly what they're doing. There's some characteristics about that drum part that makes me go, maybe they let the session drummer or whoever they hired kind of do a lot of the legwork there, because there was definitely some very drummer things going on that I don't think composers naturally would include. So just in the off chance there are people who haven't seen this show and maybe want to, I'm not going to do spoiler stuff until closer to the end and getting into the lyrics and all that. So if you want to see that, you can stick around for that. But I'm going to start with just the musical things I really enjoyed about this. Obviously, the drums are a big factor in that. This drum part was hectic. It was very anime opening, like I said. It had a lot of energy to it. It was basically carrying this whole song. Everything else was very standard Mili, a lot of piano, a lot of strings, the usual fare that they do. But this one was propped up by the energy of the drums, and I really wonder if that was on purpose in order to juxtapose the feeling of the beautified piano and the strings, making that like personality trait of the main character. That's not a spoiler, by the way, and kind of showing this struggle in the personality of that character as well, this like rose with thorns, you know, like there's definitely that factor of the main character. So I could definitely see if that was the point, to make something feel a little bit hectic but also have the backbone be just as beautiful as the usual Mili songs are, having a lot of that beautified sound to it, but then this hectic energy, this chaos in there that's just fills everywhere, throwing in these random syncopated fills, and it's just like, okay, well, things are against the grain, things aren't landing perfectly together, and that's totally by design. So I think that's supposed to reflect the world, the position, everything like that. But again, not really a spoiler, just kind of reflecting the universe they're writing for, and I think they did a really good job with that. I think there's also an extra bit of that for the way that the piano was written. There was a lot of sweeps in this. There was a lot of chords that had a little bit of dissonance to it. There were a lot of minor and major leaps that kind of didn't feel like they were making sense. There was a lot of dissonance, a lot of notes in here that were like really crunchy and right next to each other, but also at certain points especially, it sounded almost regal. It sounded proper, prim and proper, but it had this backbone, this really solid beat behind it that made it feel a little bit more proud, not in the regal way, but more just the confidence of it, the solid beat of a drum set, just rocking that four on the floor. It's one of the most traditional beats for a reason. It's so rock solid, it keeps such a rhythm to it that anything that's related to it is reflected in it. So like if a song has that heavy 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 and like that's it, the character that it's supposed to represent or the story it's supposed to represent is also reflected in that mood too. Something that is confident, something that is moving forward without any sort of obstacle stopping it, like a train, you know, like not necessarily that fast, more like a steam train. It's going slow but steady, and it's just so solid. So I think that also reflects well in the characters, but again, we'll get into that. The song is just so reflective of the world and the characters that it's almost hard to avoid spoilers, but I'm doing my best to be vague. These are just hints about the world and how it feels. It's just added refinement to the way that this song is working to tell its story, the way that things aren't quite agreeing. Like I said, there's a lot of dissonance in there. It's not just the syncopation between the piano and the drums. It's like built into the melody and the harmonies in here. Things aren't always landing. Even Cassie's doubling on her vocals is just a little off. It's like skewed a smidge. It has a little bit of processing on it that feels more artificial than even the usual Mili stuff does, because she has done vocal doubling before. But the other times she's done the vocal doubling thing, it hasn't quite felt this grimy, I suppose. Maybe that's just the difference in production. They might have not had things quite as neatly aligned, but there's almost like a warbliness to it, like it's kind of phase canceling each other out, which does happen if you stack things that are at the exact same waveform together. Like if they're vibrating on the same frequencies, they'll cancel some of those frequencies out and it'll sound a little off to the ear. So that might be what's happening here, but just in general, the way that it sounds is very much, again, part of this world. It feels like it fits because there are two main characters more or less. But now is where we're finally going to be getting into that, so I'm going to shift over to spoilers. I mean, this is a fairly old show at this point by modern standards, but if you want to watch it, which I do honestly recommend, it was a pretty decent show, I want to talk about how the lyrics reflect everything going on here and why I love some of the choices lyrically. Okay, so I pulled up the lyrics here so I can get like direct quotes and explain my thoughts and theories behind how they parallel, but there's just some really really cool points in this that I want to make note of. Like, for example, the mention of a scarlet letter. In the term scarlet letter, if you know what that is, the whole story of scarlet letter, it's referring to adultery, and that does not happen in this world. I think in this case, the scarlet letter thing is more for like, you're hiding like a demon. There's something that you've done, which does track for the main character, who basically kills. That's kind of her job. That's the executioner, you know, like that's her. So that tracks very well, just using that as like an ambiguous form. And again, as I mentioned during the reaction, Cassie does a great job at making things poetic and not making it too obvious. Like I've seen in so many anime openings, which is usually why I skip them, to be honest, because they tend to have so many spoilers. It's like, why am I here? And I'm not even a guy who really cares about spoilers much. It's just a matter of like, I've tried to watch a show. I feel like I just did. So I tend to skip those, but I'd rather skip them and listen to them later, because if I have the visuals of a subtitle or something, usually it's just showing me everything that's happening, and I end up like learning too much, so it's not as fun for me, which is why I usually don't. But I think my favorite part lyrically is the pre-chorus just as a whole. So the whole chunk there is, bury my new friend, means to an end, decomposing sailor shirts, button-down jackets, pleated skirts, dress up in the mirror I am Cinderella, too late to be reborn. And that's really fucking cool, because that's basically a summary of what the executioner does. She befriends people from our world who get reborn into this new world so she can deceive them and then eventually kill them. That's pretty much her entire job, and that's kind of the plot, is bridging that gap. There's somebody who kind of like breaks her intent there. So it's really neat getting to see that written down so succinctly and beautifully, while still being vague enough to not really pick up on it, even if you know the lyrics. And through the show and through the lyrics of the song, we're actually following their story just a little bit, not too far in, which is also very nice. They're stopping at a point. I haven't gone further than what the anime has shown, mind you, but it actually goes lyrically beyond that a little bit. It goes a little further than what the anime really covered. It does cover some of it, but again, it's vague enough that it doesn't like ruin your expectations of what's to come or give anything away blatantly. And it's also nice because they do kind of push things a little bit more in the direction of like where they're going to end up in the story, where our two main characters are going to start relating to each other and getting closer and closer, and how that's going to affect their dynamic and the relationship and the executioner's perspective of what they're doing, and kind of getting that moral check, you know? So like, this is a really good song. I really didn't expect this one to get to me nearly as much, but it is so well done. I mean, I already talked about the musical stuff that I liked about it. It's a Mili song on top of that, so it's great in production in general, but those drums were just so good at juxtaposing each other and kind of crunching that data a little bit further. It makes you go like, why are things so pretty? Why are things so hectic? Where's this energy coming from when there's also this glorious, like more orchestral, beautiful sound underneath? And why are those clashing constantly? It's like, because morally the character, our main character, is clashing. In the show themselves, the two main characters clash on their ideals. This entire show is about that exact thing, clashing these perspectives and having something like a beautiful backing of piano and violin being crushed and sometimes overpowered by these really aggressive points in the drums makes it feel that much better, because that's showing that our main character does this, you know, like they're used to that. That crazy hectic mess is their life, right? But then there's this beautiful energy that the secondary main character brings in and starts changing that perspective, and at times they start to align a little bit better musically, which is also beautiful, and I love that they have that included. So there's just a lot I love about this song. Part of me feels like I'm reading way too deep into this, and a lot of this wasn't intentional, but the other part of me wants to believe that Cassie and Yamato knew exactly what they were doing when they wrote this. They knew exactly the characters they were writing for, and they wrote a song that perfectly summarizes the entire story and the relationship of the main characters better than I've heard most anime do so, which is either the shonen standard of, yeah, let's fight and kick some ass, or like the shoujo standard of like, oh, guess we're in love now, so cute, which is fine, you know, like it's going to serve its purpose. But this gets poetic about it. It gets a little bit real about it. Musically, it starts to mess around with those concepts as well and makes that clashing even more personal. It ties everything together together a beautiful song, and Mili did a fantastic job at putting all that together and making such sense of it, while also, again, keeping it just vague enough. But I've been yapping about this one for a while, so I will call it here. Thank you all so very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see something else from Mili or something from Project Moon maybe, throw it in the comments below and I will do my best as always to get to those. Or if you just enjoyed this video and you want to follow me and support me for more stuff coming in the future, you know how to do all that, and I will see all of you in the next video. Goodbye!